Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Kat, and this is Unicorn Painter. So we are painting the Norn Emissary for my partner's army, which is really cool. I did a few things. I hope you like what I did for the base and everything else, and how it will hopefully look when it's painted. Besides that, down below there is a link to the Discord server. Now it's fully set up. If you want to join, I would love that. And yes, I will see you there. Okay, let's go. We are starting with something that we already done in every single time that we painted Tyranids, which is an underpaint of Nocturnal Red to create that illusion of blood veins under the proper skin. Now we're gonna be just putting on top of that a coat of bone white to create that desaturated but at the same time lively flesh color that I really enjoy for this kind of Tyranid, while also giving it like a, I think I would best define it with the illusion of life, because it's weird enough that you understand that that creature shouldn't exist, but you want it to exist. I'm using foreskin as a base tone for our carapaces. I really enjoy it, that it creates this greenish, this brownish, greenish bone color. I don't know, it's called foreskin for a reason. Probably you're going to be mean to paint like some concoction skin or something like that on top of it. I'm not a very good skin painter, you know. You could mask a lot of the flesh areas that we painted, but all the surfaces were really broad, really open, and not a problem. As you're gonna see in a few seconds, we're going to go back to using bone white through the airbrush to establish the highlights and a little bit the volumes of the carapace to create that illusion of depth and volumetric highlights that we're not gonna do, because that's a complicated thing, you know, and sometimes I'm terrible at complicated things on miniature painting, but really good at faking those complicated things, I would say. And it will mask a lot of the problems that we had with foreskin, if we had any. Blood red, it's a speed paint by the army painter that flows amazingly through the airbrush. I just think I did 3 parts of speed paint and 1 part airbrush thinner to dilute it a tiny little bit. I use it to create all the illusion of like wear and tear, not wear and tear, but like the redness at a lot of joints naturally have if you don't have hair or anything on top of them. And after that I use Hive Purple, which is also speed paint, and diluted 75-25 with speed paint medium to add some more depth and disgustingness, I don't know if that's a word, to all the joints and anything else that needs to have a bit of mobility, or anything that is soft and tender. And the exhaustion ports, I am gonna keep making up weirder words until someone tells me what these little bands are meant to represent on the creature. For the carapace, after we have applied the undertones and everything, 50-50 skeleton horde and Bony Matter to create a dark browny bone color that we're gonna be applying slightly carefully on top of all the surfaces. Tomb King Tan Fanatic range paint to establish all the highlights, at least the basic ones. This is just meant to catch like almost everything and reintroduce a lot of the lightness in the carapace. We're using mostly flat side of this beaten up brush to create more random patterns and also just pick up properly on anything that is edges and not flat surfaces, or create volumetric highlights, which I would usually do with like a more makeup brush instead. Adding pale sand to make sure to create the rest of the highlights, in this case between 50-50 and like straight pale sand to highlight anything else that is like the highest points on the carapace, and also the upturned faces on of a lot of the skin, and anything that I thought it would need some more definition. Talking about definition, using the same color pale sand with a bit of a fat brush, but with a really good tip to pick out anything that needs like an extreme highlight, or I would think that it didn't get enough attention with the dry brushing. Of course, I had to do a lot of it out of focus because I am a professional videographer and reasons. But as now we went high with the highlights, now we need to go low with the shadows, and we're going to be using a dark brown wash by the Army Painter to establish anything that is like the deepest points of shadow and add a little more contrast visually to the miniature, define some edges just by obscuring the darker sides, if that makes sense, and add more definition and color separation between the blades and anything else that was bony. I had some very big doubts on how to approach the glowy bits of brain that the Norn Emissary has, and then I remembered that I painted another Tyranid that had a lot of brains and things like that exposed, so I tried to remember how I did it. I'm starting with just some white ink on the airbrush to create the light spill over and the reflection patterns, if you want to call them that, and using some fluorescent yellow paint to establish the highest points of light that are going to be emanating from the little brains. I think this step works really well with any other color, but especially with applying some red, it gives you a lovely brilliant orange, as if it was like glowing or incandescent, and I think it sells the glow effect really well without like putting so much effort into it. You can do like a couple of different passes with it and go back and add some more white on the recesses, as if it was like the highest points of light emanation, or like the point of where light is born, if you want to be a bit poetic about it. But I think that with just a couple of light passes with the blood red again, we have a lovely glowy effect for anything that we needed it. Here you can see the base, which I fucking loved, and now I'm going to show you a little bit of how I achieved this look. I hope you stay with me and you enjoy it a little bit. It's very similar to painting the Norn Emissary, starting with Nocturnal Red. As always, we create the illusion of life a little bit with the underpainting and apply bone white on top of it. Easy. We've done this a few times already. I wanted a little bit more height on the base, so as you can maybe see, there's like 3 extra layers of cork below the sculpted base that the Norn Emissary come with. I decided to add a bit more differentiation between the base Tyranid beads and the Tyranid on top of it. So I use Hive Dollar Purple, like 50-50 diluted, to create more depth in all of it, and make it look more purplish instead of the whitish color that the knit has. I'm showing you the video of it in like two sides, one with the base and one with the Norn Emissary, but I did both of them at the same time. But I thought for clarity it'd be easier if it's split in two. We are doing the same mixture, Bony Matter and Skeleton Horde, to create all the bone colors. As we did before, dry brushing it with Tomb King Tan and then after some pale sand. I also added some Yoo-hoo glue when I was sculpting the base to create more of a live texture, it looks really gloopy sometimes. So I thought it would create a bit more the illusion of biomatter melting and pooling and everything else before I put in the texture paste for the ground. I don't know if I really achieved what I was set out to do, but I'm sort of happy with how I made it. To create the same color base for my rest of the army, I'm using Dark Sea Blue by Vallejo. It's a model color. This one is like the extremely old version, so I will suffer today that probably I need to replace it with the newer one because it's not gonna match exactly the color. And I will have a meltdown as the very artistic painter that I am. But what doesn't fail me is just using some autumn sage on top of the color to create that transition from like that dark blue to a more turquoisey color. I think it looks really interesting. I'm applying some gunmetal with a little bit of brown to create a bit of a differentiation between the two sides of the base. It's with brown on the left one, the highest part, more exposed to the weather, if you want to call it like that, and straight on the right side before dry brushing it with silver. I wanted something easy, and I don't know if I would do it the same way if I had to paint another. It's my third Norn Emissary that I paint, and I think I did something extremely different for the base for every one of them. Now that we've finally put the Norn back on its base where they belong, I'm just adding some tufts by Gamercrest. Now it's come the fun part. This is, I think, Tranquil Waters by Vallejo, which is sort of water effect. I added a bit of blood red to create these amazing looking blood pools. It was, 35 degrees or something like that, so it was extremely liquidy because it was warm. When I used it in the past, it was winter, so it was really easy to work with and it didn't betray me as it did here. I still think it looks good. Moving from the pooling blood, we are going on the stringy beads with some Yoo-hoo glue, as I really enjoyed using it on the Hive Tyrants on the past. I think it adds a lot of interesting visuals. I think I didn't record it properly, but I also tried to add some super glue in some zones to create some beading and some droplets. Even if now I'm painting it, I use it straight out of the glue bottle because I think the stringiness of the glue gets a bit weird when it interacts with paint. Maybe it's the kind of paint that I was using, so I don't know exactly. I'm not a chemist. It has like a really strong smell, so if you're going to use a lot, probably use a respirator. The first time that I used it, I had like a really bad headache after, so don't inhale fumes, please. But after that public health announcement, I am just covering everything with dry blood. In this case, it's a darker color blood by the Army Painter, and I think it contrasts a bit better with anything that is like really highlight red on the brains and all the other blood colors and the plants. I think it gives it a bit more depth to the amount of red colors that it has, and not just like, oh, everything is like straight out of a vein, kind of. I thought I would give you like a tiny little bit of a spin on the Norn Emissary, as I don't usually do this for my minis. If you'd like to see more turntables at the end of the videos, but just let me know and maybe I can sort that out. That was it. I hope that you liked it. I think I streamlined it a bit better. I put the base on one side and the miniature on the other, so you can simply take a good look at both of them and how I approach the two parts of such a big miniature. I didn't have time to show you properly the stuff that I did for the base, but it was just a little bit more cork and some extra hook glue to create that texture around the edges. I can try to give you a certain idea or something for the next time if you'd like to see that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. It's gonna be really cool. I can promise you that next week you're gonna like it. Okay, bye bye.